The Red Sox dropped Game 2 to the Mariners, evening the series, thanks in equal parts to Buehler's meltdown and Brian Woo's jam. The final score, 8 to nothing. The Red Sox record, 38 wins, 37 losses. I'm Nick the Voice, joined tonight by Jason Kelly and Terry Cushman Jr., and we are the Bastards of Boston. And if you want more, you can go to bastardsofbostonbaseball.com for great written articles just about every day. Now, the big story here, I think, is that everyone sort of had a feeling the game was over as soon as that grand slam in the fifth was hit. Buehler looked terrible. He was missing his targets by, a wide margin. I was just telling Jason before we went live that I was listening to the radio broadcast, and the commentators there were actually pointing out just how bad it was, that there was something maybe mechanically wrong. He was missing his spots, and because of that, we got into a hole right off the bat. He ended up giving up 8 runs. The bullpen, well, every other pitcher in the game, actually, for both teams, gave up 0 combined. What was your guys' takeaway from that?
I was really frustrated because Terry and I were on here just last night talking about Lucas Giolito and the performance that he put in, and how I felt like Andrew Bailey was kind of shifting his mindset with the pitching philosophy of let's get ahead in the count, let's establish the fastball more, let's not pitch from behind the way that they were. And I thought, and I said last night, I said, I'm hoping that Walker Buehler goes out tomorrow night and does the same thing that he did in his last start, where he's establishing the fastball. He's ahead in the count, and he limits base runners because he has good stuff. We know he has good stuff. If he locates it and does what he's supposed to do, he did none of that tonight. It was like right back to where we were a month ago, where just missing location, putting too many guys on base, and then you put that many guys on for Cal Raleigh, who is Seattle's best hitter, who is garnering MVP votes at this point, you're going to get burned. I mean, that's just, that's what you deserve. So it really frustrated me because, look, we know the offense is not going to score a ton of runs, especially with Rafael Devers out of your lineup now. Your pitching has to be on point, particularly your starting pitching. And Walker Buehler went backwards tonight. He went completely backwards. He basically gave the game away to Seattle. Once you go down 5-0 with this offense, with that kind of lineup, you're toast. So, it's one of those where we're still trying to process the Devers trade. For those of us who are sitting here today going, yeah, I'm okay with it, keep this game in mind because that's your future. You go down 5-0 or more, you're done. This lineup, as it's currently constituted, cannot, overcome that. So the starting pitching has to be not perfect, but it's got to be at least competitive, and it was not tonight, and that's why you lost.
So I just checked Baseball Reference. Rowdy Tellez weighs 270 pounds.
And he did steal a bag. For anyone who missed it, I'm sorry to say you missed a little bit of history right there. That was his 5th stolen base of his entire career, I believe, in 8 years.
He stole a base on Walker Buehler, and Buehler did not recover. And it didn't go good. I haven't seen anything that absurd. And I referenced this next thing fairly recently one time, and I typically do it a couple times a year. I haven't seen anything that absurd since Mike Napoli stole second base on David Price in the 2016 ALDS. And Price is a lefty looking right at first base. In Napoli stole the bag, and that's what happened tonight. You can't recover from that. You can't recover from that. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's kind of late, as we know, and I spent a couple minutes clearing out the cobwebs before we came on. I think, didn't Buehler walk the bases loaded?
Yes, he did. I'm not sure if it was all, like, what happened, if it was all consecutive or not, but I remember the last one was a walk.
I'm pretty sure he had 3 walks that inning.
I think you're right,
And,
Terry. I think he did walk the bases loaded. Yeah, because that was the inning where his command wasn't good all game, but it went out the window that inning. Like he just completely
Yeah.
lost his head.
I have the breakdown here. It was the single from Rowdy, and then a fly out, then Rowdy steals. And you're right, that was pretty much the straw that broke the camel's back. It was a walk to Ben Williamson, a double to Cole Young to score Williamson, or excuse me, to score Rowdy. Then a walk for J.P. Crawford, then a walk for Julio Rodriguez. Oh, that's right, because it was Williamson who tried to score, and fortunately, David Hamilton and Ceddanne Rafaela had that great defensive play to throw him out of the plate. Not that it ended up impacting the game all that much, but that's right. And then, yeah, so 2 walks right before that home run. Just so predictable.
yeah, and then, Raleigh, as Jason was alluding to, is, the best hitter in Major League Baseball. I think he was tied with Aaron Judge as recently as a few days ago. But yeah, so it wasn't a good start. And Devers got introduced today, and a lot of stuff's come out about that. Last night, I think we were talking about how he was mad at Christian Campbell for taking grounders at first, but apparently that never happened. Campbell was asked about it before the game. He goes, "I don't remember anything like that." And so stuff's been trickling out, and just not a good day for the Red Sox. And Devers had an RBI double, just absolutely ripped one right up the right center gap, and kind of introduced himself. And I was just thinking before he came on, I said, we acquired trash rather to get Devers, essentially trash, to move Devers. And you need that production back in your lineup somehow, and you're going to have to give up a lot more than trash to it was pennies on the dollar. That's what you gave up Devers for. And so we're just not in good shape right now, and obviously you're down. How are you getting those runs back tonight? And was when it was 5. We were down by 5, and I'm thinking, how do you claw back into it? And you can't.
Yeah, it's just ugly. I mean, really, you just break it down by base runners, and it tells the whole story. You can't give up 8 hits, and you can't give up 4 walks in 3.1 innings. You're not going to win a baseball game if your starter does that, unfortunately. And it is a shame because Buehler did look to be turning things around, maybe. The whole pitching staff did. But Buehler now, I'm just looking at his game log. This was an ugly one. His last time out was a pretty nice game. But then June 6th, a 2-inning blowup for 5 earned runs, 7 runs total. You go back to May 31st, 5.2 innings pitched, 5 earned runs. So now, out of the last 5 starts, he really has barely pitched well. I mean, he's pitched worse more than he's pitched well. It's just more often because really he comes back from the injury on May 20th. He gets tossed in the 3rd inning. And then after that, it is 2 decent starts. But I mean, giving up 2 runs in 5 innings, 3 runs in 7, that's decent. That's not like blow the doors off the barn. And just 3 absolute meltdowns. It's very concerning to see.
And the thing about Walker Buehler is that he's on a 1-year deal. It's a 1-year prove it deal because look, he was great in the postseason for the Dodgers. He had a good second half, but the rest of his career has been riddled with injury and inconsistency. So this is a guy who, is he just 30 now, I think? Is he still 29? I'm not even sure. But he's either 29 or 30. Like, he has to prove that, look, I want a long-term deal after this. Like, I still have a lot left in me despite the injuries, despite, the inconsistency early in my career. This should have been his chance to prove what I showed you in October was what I can really be. And he's done the opposite. He's had, like Nick said, like maybe 1, 2 good starts. The rest have been not just bad, they've been blowouts. So that's where you kind of look at it and you go, unfortunately, do you wish you kind of paid Nick Pivetta instead of just giving Buehler this 1 year deal? I mean, yeah, it's 1 year. You can cut your losses, but you're also not winning games with him going out there giving up grand slams to Cal Raleigh and putting your team in the hole. I mean, I don't know if Nick Pivetta would pitch as well here if he as he is in San Diego. Probably not, but who knows? That's one of those decisions where they went with Walker Buehler over Nick Pivetta. That's a fact. So right now, that's looking like a bad decision. And Buehler is costing himself money, and you kind of go, dude, do you have that competitive juice in you, or was this just you had one good postseason and you were full of yourself, and you're just really not that good? Like another bad investment. It sucks, but like I hope that's not the case. But right now, it's looking that way.
I think of like if you're talking worst case, one guy that stands out, to where Bueller could be headed is Noah Syndergaard. I figured he was going to be a Cy Young candidate for over a decade. Just young pitcher. What was it, the 2015 World Series? He was pitching for the Mets and just completely cooked by about 2022. He had Tommy John like Bueller just did. So I hope he figures it out. I mean, this rotation is in a pretty decent spot at the moment. Everybody's pitching fairly well. I'm not ready to completely write him off yet, but you're getting Tanner Houck back. Ideally, Jason and I talked about him last night. Ideally, he would just go to the bullpen until he figures it out. Do the Nick Pivetta model with him. We would send Pivetta to the pen. He would figure it out, get dominant. Eventually, by necessity, he would be in the rotation again. And, Pivetta was serviceable the whole time and more than that this year. So we'll see. But yeah, I just don't I don't know where to go. And then another observation I've made tonight, Roman Anthony is not a good outfielder. Just bad read, bad route to the ball. It just doesn't look good. And I don't know. He probably did not get a hit, I'm guessing. I didn't see his final at bat, so that's why I'm not
think
sure.
So.
As far as I know, he didn't. No.
Yeah. So ugly start for him, but the defense is concerning, I think. And I expected that he was probably a fairly solid defender. Yeah, he was 0 for 4, Roman Anthony, 3 strikeouts, so not a good night.
Definitely not a good night for really any hitter. I mean, Brian Wu just bent us over a barrel. It was disgusting. He was pitching tremendously. He really just had a couple bad pitches. I mean, he hit Toro and he looked ugly. I think that was in the first inning. And then the rest of the game, I mean, he just settled in there. Only 2 walks, 1 hit, just a lot of weak contact. Now, some weak contact, but some strong contact too. Very early in the game, I actually tweeted out that both Duran and I forget who else. Who else? I think it was Meyer actually in the second inning. Both of them struck the ball incredibly well, and it went to the warning track. And you wonder if it's another park with different weather. Maybe those are home runs, but that's a maybe game. You know what was definitely a home run? Cal Raleigh's grand slam. That thing was gone. So at the end of the day, we're all hitting in the same park. So I don't like people who use that as an excuse. But something to keep an eye on, definitely. What's not good is the strikeouts, like you mentioned. By the way, just a quick, sort of finger on the pulse of the health of this lineup. Rob Refsnyder in the 8-hole, DHing versus a right-handed pitcher. If that doesn't tell you, we had, according to some reports, 3 to 4 weeks that we were working out this Devers trade. We couldn't at least wait until Wilyer Abreu was back. What are we doing?
Well, and to your point, so yeah, all the reports that came out are, Posey was talking to the Red Sox for 3 to 4 weeks, as you said, about the Devers trade. So, and look, maybe those 3 to 4 weeks they weren't getting anywhere, and the Red Sox thought, we're not making this deal. Maybe the Giants were balking on the money. Who knows? But now, today, we hear these reports that, oh, we're going to accelerate Yoshida's rehab time. Now we want Yoshida to speed up his recovery. Why weren't you doing that in the 3 to 4 weeks that you were talking to the Giants about Devers? Because at any point, they could have done what I assume they did, which is said, you know what? We'll take the whole contract. Does that help? We'll take all his money. You guys don't pay a thing. And the Red Sox hammered that button, go, okay, yep, let's do it. Why now are you accelerating Yoshida's rehab when everything we've heard for the last month plus is that he can hit, he just can't throw a baseball. Okay, well, which is weird, but I don't need him to throw a baseball as a DH. Can he hit? Because we need guys who can hit. As you mentioned, like Rob Refsnyder in the 8 hole as a DH. Like, no, that's you can't do that. So that's another one where it's like, are you guys on the same page? Is everyone talking to each other here? Because I feel like every time they ask Alex Cora about Yoshida, he's like, I think he's in Fort Myers, but maybe he's in Boston. I don't know. I think he's throwing from 60 feet. Maybe he's up to 90 feet now, but I'm not really sure. Like, if you had just a thought that this Devers trade was going to go through, you should have been pushing Yoshida in his rehab a lot sooner than this. Instead of now, all of a sudden, let's accelerate it because now, funny, we have no offense without Rafael Devers. Let's push this guy who, by the way, isn't going to come close to replacing Devers' production, but let's do it now. They should have been doing it weeks ago. It makes no sense.
A lot has come out. Well, I shouldn't say a lot necessarily. I mean, we covered a lot of it yesterday too, but the more I read about Breslow here, the more pessimistic I am about what his future is. And I mean, like Jason was just saying, there really was no plan. Like there was no, you kind of needed a corresponding trade if you're going to move Devers out of there. And you're never going to fully replace him, but you need a viable 3 or 4 hitter into your lineup. And you can make the argument, well, not everybody's doing that in mid-June. With the extra wild cards now, I mean, 7 teams or is it 6 teams rather, from both sides, make it into the playoffs. So it just, theoretically, there's just not that many teams that are out of it. So it's a little complicated, but just today, another bombshell, if you want to call it that, from June Lee gets dropped. Apparently, the Red Sox were using AI bots to interview candidates for the front office. And last winter, when I was growingly frustrated by the lack of pitching, I mean, we got Crochet on December 8th, and then I think Buehler was either just before or just after Christmas. I forget. Fairly late December. So I was kind of frustrated about that, and then it dragged out. Obviously, we needed most of us felt we needed 2 righty bats. We only got 1 with Bregman, but it was a big acquisition. They made a big commitment, and so fair enough. But I had questioned how strong Breslow was, specifically with negotiating with other teams' executives and then players' agents. I'm like, I don't know if he has the personality to do these high-level negotiations. I just don't. All you got last year was Lucas Giolito, and nobody wanted him. So it's not like it was a huge thing. And come to find out, we're using AI bots. And I don't know if that was like a Breslow thing, like if he actually implemented that, but they had that consulting firm come in to kind of clean house and streamline the organization. So perhaps that's something they introduced during that audit. Maybe we'll find more in the coming days, but the more that comes out, the culture in the front office is just absolutely terrible. And whoever that was, that partook in that interview process went through 5 rounds only to find out it wasn't even a person he was taking questions from. They didn't say whether or not that person ended up being hired by the Red Sox. So I'm guessing not, for that to come out. But it's just crazy. Devers gets traded, and then all these bombshells get leaked about Breslow. Like, are there people in the organization behind the scenes that are turning on him right now and just kind of exposing all of this? Because again, the culture in the front office is really bad, and nobody wants to work for John Henry or the Red Sox front office.
Well, it's like you said about the whole thing with Christian Campbell going to first base, rumors. Now we're getting conflicting reports. Some people, one article said that, Devers was asked to take grounders at third and first in spring training, and then that he refused and requested a trade. But then an article by Chris Cotillo contradicted that. So at this point, I'm almost wondering, like the thing with the AI story, it's like, why didn't this come out previously? Why during the Devers drama have something come out that has nothing to do with Devers? And, I don't want to get too tinfoil hat about it, but it just seems like, I mean, I'm not ruling out the possibility that there's some sort of disinformation campaign going on. You know what I mean? Where you just sort of open the floodgates, get a bunch of articles written, get it into a media tizzy, and hopefully you bury the fact that you totally botched your relationship with your superstar player. Hopefully that gets swept under the rug during all of it.
Yeah, I'll quote Tony Maz on this one. I smell a rat. And I don't know if the rat is Cora or if it's John Henry himself or John Henry's representation. For June Lee to get all these details to put in his article, like somebody's talking because there's a lot that to dissect in that article. And there's still more coming out now. I mean, that detail that Terry mentioned about the AI interview, like, first of all, that's embarrassing. I mean, that does speak to Craig Breslow and the report we heard earlier about him insulating himself from other people in the organization, like not wanting to work with other humans. Like he was driving people out. He wanted to kind of just have his own thing. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that was a Breslow implementation. Same thing with the Christian Campbell detail. At first, we heard that Campbell volunteered to play first base. Then Cora comes out and says, nope, we asked him to. And, he's like, I wouldn't know that caused a rift between him and Devers. Cora is definitely doing a lot of the I didn't know this happened thing, which, again, if you want to do the whole I smell a rat thing, that's kind of where I go because it's like, you're the manager of the team. You didn't know this was going on in your own clubhouse? You didn't know that Rafael Devers was pissed off at whether it's Christian Campbell or just the idea of them asking Campbell to play first base? You didn't know? So either you're a liar or your hands are off the wheel. And the reports of Cora kind of being checked out and not caring this as much this year is true, which is also concerning. Either way, it's concerning. So there's a rat somewhere. Someone's talking, whether it's Henry and Co., whether it's Cora, I don't know. But like, this is giving me eerie vibes of like when Francona got fired and all of a sudden there was that Boston Globe hit piece that, tore him to shreds and he fired back. Like, it feels like as much as people want the Rafael Devers thing to kind of be wrapped up and done, I don't think it's going to be done for a while because I think that there's going to be more from each side. I mean, Devers has said his piece today. He said, look, if they just told me, yeah, we want you to play first base and we'll keep you there, he would have done it. according to him. Now, look, players lie. Everyone lies, but players especially. But that was Devers' side of the truth. He said, look, if they had just told me you got to play first base, but we'll commit to you there, that he would have done it. And of course, naturally we see him taking grounders at first base in San Francisco today with, oddly enough, Dom Smith. So a little bit of symmetry there. So someone's lying. Maybe everyone's lying, but this feels like the Francona thing all over again, except it's with a superstar player who's still going to keep playing and is probably going to do great things in San Francisco. So this is far from over. If Red Sox fans think, because I saw it a lot today, it's like, well, I'm already over it. I'm ready to sweep it under the rug. Yeah, sorry. It's not getting swept under the rug because someone's talking, multiple people are talking. This isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Sorry, it's just not.
And Jones and Keefe on WEI, which I very seldom ever listen to WEI, but I couldn't help it, the last couple of days. So I got the Odyssey app, and I'm in South Carolina. I can't just turn on WEI on the radio. I have to stream it. And they were quick to point out that Breslow pointed out that Alex Cora was up to almost up to the minute on the fact that Devers could get traded. And he pointed that out. And it was strategic on Breslow's part to do that. So that way Cora couldn't say to the media when they got to him, hey, I didn't know anything about it. But, so they would have just pivoted and said, well, Breslow said you knew about it. So Breslow got ahead of it there. And Cora at some point this afternoon was asked more questions, and he seemed to get kind of frustrated with the whole thing. And he says, look, I just want to put it behind me. It's done. I just want to put it behind me. And so there's a discomfort there about it. And I think the media will find out. I think we will get to the bottom of it. I think it's going to look worse for Breslow as we go. I said last night, I don't really see a path forward. It was nice to get that win last night. We only had to put up 2 runs to do it, but that's not going to get it done most of the time. You're going to take the L if you only put up 2 runs. And yeah, Buehler going tomorrow, so theoretically you're not Buehler, Crochet going tomorrow, so you could win the series, but it's gonna get ugly. And then the thing real quick about Devers, it all comes down to the fact he was lied to. All winter long, he was lied to. They should have just pulled him aside and said, Rafi, winning is so critical this year. We're tired of losing, and if we get a Bregman or an Arenado type guy, you might have to play first, and we hope you're good with that, and we'll make sure in spring training you get all the reps you need. But Craig Breslow has the personality of a rock and really has no business. The term I used to describe Craig Breslow for much of last season was that he's a science project. No experience. His front office stuff in Chicago was all pitching related, and he worked remotely. So he wasn't in there. He was at home doing stuff remotely. He wasn't in the office with Jed Hoyer and Theo Epstein learning the day to day. That wasn't happening. Nobody else wanted the job, and they took a massive gamble, and it's a science project, and it's failed epically on so many levels.
You say that Craig Breslow has the personality of a rock, and I think I'll do you one better on that. When I hear him and Kennedy speak, it sounds like I'm listening to politicians. These guys are so beautifully manicured in every answer to every question to be as non-committal as possible, and I'm tired of it. people were asking, well, would you have done anything differently looking back? They can't answer that. They won't answer that. So they'll just dance around it. Well, what about this? Oh, they'll dance around. What about this? They'll dance around. It's ridiculous. And I'm not one of those people that thinks that every single front office person should be completely 100% transparent. I'm really not. Believe me, I'm a Patriots fan too. Bill Belichick was my coach for a long time, all right? I am perfectly fine with some level of front-facing stoicism, but you have to at least prove you've got something going on behind the scenes. And with Breslau, I just don't know. It's exactly like you said, Terry. What has really alarmed me are a couple of key things. So first off, I'll play a little bit of both sides. First off, to condemn Devers. I think that he was spoiled. I think that he was stubborn. And Duran seeming to be completely unfazed by Devers leaving, that speaks volumes to me. It really does. However, on the other perspective, it's exactly like you said. The news coming out that Rafael Devers, and this is bad enough, that he found out that the Red Sox were pursuing one of Arenado or Bregman via media articles. He read about himself in the papers. But what makes it worse, I don't blame the guy for being irked if that's the case. But what makes it even worse is he then approached the front office. He said, hey, is there any truth to this? Are you guys looking to replace me at third? And they told him no. That's not just a lie by omission. That is an outright lie. So you know what? Devers taking out his frustration on Craig Breslau, I get that. I won't forgive him for taking out his frustration in a way that ultimately hurt the fans and his teammates and maybe cost us games. But Craig Breslau did not handle this well. The dude's a stiff. We've heard it. Reports are coming out of this insular front office that Craig Breslau is becoming even more isolated than Chaim Bloom was. People are feeling alienated, and that is probably why so many people are talking now.
I think you're dead on, and I'm glad that you sort of, showed both sides there because, look, I'm frustrated with Rafael Devers too. All this stuff coming out about how, he just kind of threw a hissy fit and was like, oh, no, you didn't approach me at the right time, so I'm not going to do it. The David Ortiz comments about how he didn't, Ortiz tried to reach out to him. He didn't text back. All of that is very frustrating. And look, sometimes superstar players are a pain in the ass. It's part of pro sports. Welcome to pro sports, Craig Breslau. Your star player might be a pain in the ass sometimes. We've heard similar things about Juan Soto. We've heard similar things about Bryce Harper early in his career. Superstar players are a pain in the ass. You have to manage that. So you can blame Rafael Devers a little bit for this. And look, he deserves some blame for sure because he kind of, out of spite, just effed over his teammates and the entire organization and said, nope, I'm not playing the field. F you. You told me put my glove away. I did. And I'm just going to sit here and be insubordinate. That's hard. That's hard for any organization to deal with. An insubordinate player who will not acquiesce to any sort of just middle ground. He just wasn't willing to do it. Fine. They screwed this from day one. They lied to him in the offseason. They lied to him about, that whole press run. Rafi's our third baseman. We have confidence in his defense. Yeah, he struggled, but we're confident that he'll improve. Rafi's our third baseman. We heard that all through the winter. Meanwhile, Jeff Passan and all the other reporters were saying the Red Sox are interested in Nolan Arenado and Alex Bregman. Okay, so what's going on here? It was blatant lies, and this is where you shouldn't trust a front office because that Zoom meeting last night before the game was an embarrassment. So first of all, if you took a shot every time they used the word alignment, I'm surprised if you made it through it because you would have passed out 5 minutes in. But the other biggest lie that they told was when, I forget who asked the question, but somebody asked, was this a baseball trade? Meaning, was this a trade that you felt like made the baseball team better? And Breslow and Kennedy combined came up with some BS answer of, yep, we did this because we thought it was the best baseball decision. That's bullcrap. That's absolute bullcrap. And immediately, everyone, like, I was on the stream, the comments went wild. People are going, "Are you kidding me?" Like, they still think the fan base is stupid. They still think the fan base is stupid. Like, they were sitting there going, "Yeah, no, this is a baseball trade. We felt like this gives us flexibility at the deadline." And Terry and I talked about this last night. If they don't do anything at the deadline, then they just gave you the biggest middle finger in the world. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do anything. I wouldn't be surprised if they stand pat or make some minor moves and they go, well, we feel like this is a good baseball trade. Like, they just sell you a bunch of bull crap. And it just, so look, you can be frustrated with Rafael Devers. I am too. Okay. A lot of those details that came out, I went, oof, that's concerning. The biggest concern is with the front office and with Craig Breslow and this installation of Breslow, the AI interviews, him pushing people away. It just feels like more and more the Red Sox are run by a computer. And the computer is only accessible to Craig Breslow. And it's spreadsheets, algorithms, AI. Like, that's super concerning. There is not a single guy in the Red Sox organization or the front office that just has a baseball mind that goes, hey, maybe this would be good. Nope. Breslow doesn't want that. And for those of you left around that are still Cora fans, he'll be gone too, because this isn't going to last. Cora is a on-the-field baseball guy. Him and Breslow are not going to last together. So that's where I get real concerned about the near future as far as the distant future. Like, who the hell is running this team? Is it just Breslow and the bots? Or are there any baseball people left? I don't think there are. And that's massively concerning.
I think that it is mostly Breslow at this point, and I think there's probably a chance, and I'm just theorizing with this, that even Sam Kennedy is kind of stepped away. Like, I think he knows that he's in a no-win situation. Things have gotten toxic. Everybody hates Breslow. Things aren't working out. I mean, eventually, it's just insane that Devers got traded. I mean, we kept how many days in the last month were we like, oh, we got a DFA story, and that's the move, and and then we another thing I was thinking tonight, I'm like looking at the Mariners and I'm like, how the hell were they smart enough to not step on the Tristan Casas landmine? And we were so stupid that we gave up Devers for nothing to the Giants. Like, there's been some serious plot twists here. Another thing I found annoying, I'm going to get back to Kennedy in a second, but if I don't say this now, I'll forget. There was a tweet earlier. I was trying to find my way back up to it. It said that I think it was Bradford or someone quoted. Oh, here it is. It was Ian Brown and Christopher Smith both tweeted it basically at the same time. They said, Alex Cora said Christian Campbell never approached him about playing first base. It was the Red Sox who approached Campbell, and he says he knows nothing of Devers being mad. So I'm just focusing on the Red Sox asking Campbell a little bit. So there's conversations going on about Campbell playing first base behind Cora's back. So
weird.
It's like Breslow's trying to clean things up a little bit and says, all right, well, let's put Campbell over there. And then he never does. And I'm guessing he never does because Bregman gets hurt. And now Meyer can play third now and Campbell can play at second. So I'm guessing that's why it didn't happen. But we were almost essentially promised that Campbell would play first base in one of the games at Fenway against the Texas Rangers, and it didn't happen. So, and that was well after the injury. So there's just so much dysfunction going on. And the last thing I wanted to mention about Kennedy is whenever he gets backed into a corner at a press conference by the beat writers, he always falls back on, listen, we've won 4 world championships. And I'm getting so tired of that. So the first 3 of those, 04, 07, 2013, Kennedy wasn't even the president and CEO yet. And I said on Twitter, I called him a pencil pusher. Obviously, he was pretty high in the organization, at least by 2013, but he wasn't the guy. He didn't have any authority. And by the time he got that position, Dave Dombrowski was the ultimate authority aside from John Henry. And so I'm just tired of Kennedy falling back on that. And he's the one who hired the last 2 executives. So he picked the guys running the clown show. So I think he's starting to realize that. I think he's starting to realize there's not much else I can say. I keep trying to toe the company line here, but there's no maneuvering around it. I'm just totally screwed here. And in part from his own bad decisions, but I don't know.
I think you saw a bit of that in the Zoom call. I feel like he was deferring to Breslow a lot more. Whereas, we're used to Kennedy running his mouth and just talking over everybody. I feel like today, last night, he was like, "Oh, Craig, I'll let you take that one." I think you're right. I think he's like, "Nope, this is your mess. I'll do the company line. I'll do the politician line. But, in terms of the details, Craig, I'll let you handle that." Yeah, I feel like Kennedy definitely did that in this last Zoom call to kind of protect himself a little bit.
Well, and it's clear that this team has had a total change in philosophy since that last World Series, really since 2019. Dombrowski getting the boot and Chaim Bloom being brought in ushered in a new era of Red Sox baseball. And so far, aside from a fluky 2021, this team in this new era has not been performing well. They haven't even been performing badly. They've just been performing, treading water. The Cincinnati Bengals, I always equate it to that sort of phase where they made the wild card every year and would get bounced immediately. It's just ridiculous. One thing that really stuck out to me, and I think this is not just a condemnation of Breslau, but a condemnation, I'm afraid, of the direction baseball is heading, is a tweet from Jeff Passan that stated that the blockbuster has executives across baseball confounded. On one hand, the Red Sox got out from a deal every model in baseball has as underwater. Stop. If every model is telling you that Rafael Devers' deal was bad, that he was overpaid, that he was a DH, that all this, then you need to change your models because it's telling you something that common sense would disagree with. At the end of the day, it sucks because I am a Moneyball guy. I love analytics. I love spreadsheets. I love this stuff. I really do. But they're just tools to be used. And if you stop listening to the talent that you have around you, and you essentially become this absolute monarch, this dictator with a laptop that you ask ChatGPT how to run your team, it's not going to work out. And we've been seeing that. It's really frightening to me. A lot of people say that Devers was overpaid for just being a DH, which I already sort of spit at just because the idea that baseball contracts have been inflating steadily and quickly. Kyle Tucker, mark my words, is going to make a boatload of money, and he deserves to, but it's going to be more than Rafael Devers. I saw someone say we should just use the money we saved on Devers to go out and get someone like Tucker. Do you think he would sign the same exact deal? Of course not. He's going to want to be paid just like Judge and Bogarts and Soto, where he's going to be extended until he's 41 years old, maybe even 42. Why not go for that goal? Making $40 million a year. It's absolutely ridiculous. Someone needs to play DH on the team. So you can use the WAR calculation and you can say, well, DH's WAR is depreciated, which is true. But at least when we traded Nomar, there was the idea that, okay, we'll bring in a different shortstop, and what we're losing offensively, we're going to be gaining back defensively. When you take a DH and swap him out for a DH, there's nothing else that makes up for that. You need to get a guy who can hit. And it's a shame because over this past 6 games, as you guys both touched on, the 6-game win streak, rather, the Sox's offense wasn't performing even really with Devers in it. You go back to, I believe it was that last game against the Rays, or one of the games against the Rays. We scored 3 runs, then 4, then 2, then 4, then 2, then 2. And just as unsustainable as those stretches were, and that we said as the games where we're going to win 10-8 are, it's equally unsustainable to hope that you can win every game 3-1, 4-2. We need everyone to start firing on all cylinders. The rotation needs to buckle down and get right back into what it's been doing. The bullpen needs to stay like it is. And please don't put Bernardino in any more high leverage spots. That poor dude sacrificed his arm last month. Hopefully Slayton will return soon. Hopefully we'll get Hicks back soon. I've heard from a few people he can be a high leverage arm. But the offense needs to get these 5 or 6 run games going. And ultimately swapping out a top-tier hitter like Rafael Devers for Wilyer Abreu or Yoshida, getting those guys back will help us, don't get me wrong. But they're not as good as Devers. Almost no one is. There's 14 hitters out there that are, I guess, and I don't think we're getting any of them unless the Dodgers think that Shohei Ohtani's deal is underwater. Maybe if their model says that, we have a shot.
The whole point of, so you bring a good point about the financials, like, MLB executives thinking that deal's underwater. There is a little bit of follow the money here with Fenway Sports Group because they bought the Penguins just a few years ago. They're now looking to sell off the Penguins again, like after just like 3 or 4 years, which is weird. I mean, Penguins aren't in good shape for those of you who follow hockey, but like they're not a trash organization. They're a good team. Like you can still recoup that. Fenway Sports Group was already done with them. Fenway Sports Group is also paying a German striker 158 million pounds to join Liverpool, which for this country is a lot more money. So that, I think all that ties in because let's face it, John Henry doesn't have the passion for the Red Sox that he had in 04. He doesn't. Okay? Like in 04, he joined, he bought it, he wanted to beat the Yankees, he wanted to stick it to them, and he did. Now it's kind of like, they're just an item in the portfolio. As long as you people keep buying tickets and keep going to the games and keep feeding his revenue, he doesn't care. So, like, there is a little bit of follow the money because he ships off Rafael Devers, he frees up $300+ million, and in the same week, he signs one of the best strikers in European soccer to his Liverpool club. This is the ownership group you're dealing with. So I think what happened was Henry signed the deal with Devers. He gave him the money because in his mind, he thought, well, okay, he's a third baseman. He's a left-handed hitter, left-handed power hitter. This is what the value is. Okay, fine. We'll give him the deal. Then Breslow and Cora and all them came in and said, yeah, he actually sucks as a third baseman. We're going to make him a DH. And Henry's sitting there going, wait, what? Are you kidding me? Like, really? He's a DH? I could have paid him $10 million less per year. Like, so any chance Henry could get out of that deal, he was going to take. And the Giants gave him that opportunity. Giants said, we'll take the remainder of the contract. And Henry said, deal him. Do it. Send him over there. I don't care. I don't care who Kyle Harrison is. I don't care who Jordan Hicks is. These names mean nothing to me because I'm John Henry and I'm researching European footballers. I'm not looking at relief pitchers from the Giants. I don't care. So that's what it was. It just, and again, it speaks more to the miscommunication between the ownership, the front office, the manager, all of that. So it was kind of a perfect storm of like Henry is trying to make his profile make sense. Devers was unhappy. He was overpaid by just being a DH. And Henry went, there's a team willing to take his whole contract. Yeah, send him. Who cares? If we finish 500, whatever. I'll get the revenue seats from Fenway sales. I don't care. So, yeah, that's all it is.
You're absolutely right about it just being another team in his portfolio right now. And it's funny because it all harkens back to that old story about Ruth, right? That the reason Ruth was traded was to finance the owner's play he wanted to put on Broadway. It really is like the modern equivalent of that story. It really is. It's just sad. It's sad to see, and it's frustrating, and you're absolutely right.
I think Henry approving the deal was just a concession of we've just completely lost control here. Him flying to Kansas City should have been a big deal, and it was a big deal, and it didn't change anything. And I just think he's looking at it like, man, we've just totally lost control here, and I don't I don't know how Breslow survives this, and I don't know how the Red Sox talk somebody into taking the job. I really think you have to nuke the front office, all of it. The next person who comes in is gonna have an unprecedented amount of leverage. They're gonna be empowered to, okay, you don't want any of these holdover executives, fine. You can bring your own team in here, people you trust, people you know that you can collaborate with to build, this team into a juggernaut. And you don't, as long as they can get the kids going here, and it's not looking pretty at the moment. Meyer is really your best one. And I think there's some internal disagreements about the pitching lab and drive line. I think the June Lee article from yesterday might have insinuated that there's a lot of philosophical disagreements behind the scenes, but I just think that's probably gonna have to happen. And I think Sam Kennedy's at the point where he doesn't want to get in front of the microphone anymore either. Yeah. Let's just get a smart guy. The best thing to do would be to nuke it, go get Theo Epstein, bring him kind of front and center and say, listen, Breslow's gone. I'd get rid of Cora, start fresh there. When I say unprecedented leverage, the next executive is going to be able to pick their manager, and just have Theo Epstein lead the search and try to find the right people to get in place, because Epstein, people are going to shut up and listen. If his cell phone number pops up on your phone, you're going to answer it because it's Theo Epstein. You might not answer it if it's Sam Kennedy. But there's just a lot of credibility there. I think that's what should happen. And I think the clubhouse will just take a deep breath. If Cora's suddenly gone and Breslow's gone, I think they'll just focus game by game. The kids will have a lot less pressure. That's how I would handle it, because I don't see, Breslow's already lost everyone, and I don't think it's his skill set to address all the needs that this team has right now.
Yeah.
I don't think he can solve it. And with all these bombshell reports coming out, and then the fact we're probably going to miss another postseason, that's more than enough to say this science project failed.
Absolutely. I people are talking about the return for Devers. I like Tibbs. I like Harrison. Hicks, if he can be a higher leverage arm, I like him. I like these guys. Well, Hicks is obviously here for these 2 years, but I like Harrison and I like Tibbs as like 2 to 3 years from now, guys who could help us win. Devers is a guy, I said this last time, that, Devers is a guy who also could have helped us win in that same time frame. It's very frustrating. And I think the only thing that is helping to preserve Craig Breslau's job is the fact that even before Breslau was hired, no one wanted the job. And at this point, no one's going to want the job because it's looking worse and worse. Now, as a counterpoint, I guess one nice thing is you come in as a GM, you sit there, you do nothing for a whole year. Congratulations, you've done less damage than Craig Breslau. It's just a shame because, you're right about Andrew Bailey's pitching lab. We'll see. I think not tomorrow because it is a crochet day, but I think this next time through the rotation, we're going to see just how legit this turnaround was, this win streak was. It's funny because with Walker Buehler too, the past 2 years, this year and last year, his four-seam fastball has been by far his worst pitch. So you'd think Bailey would love a guy like that, He's a guy who throws a nice mix. He's got like 6 pitches I think he jumbles through. Maybe start focusing on the ones that are good rather than the ones that are bad. Who knows? Maybe our technology can help figure that out. But also, one little thing to keep an eye on, Richard Fitz did actually just pitch for Worcester today. 5 innings pitched. I think pitch count, he was in the 70s, maybe hit 80. Only 2 hits, no walks, no runs, only 3 Ks. But I don't believe that Fitz getting shelled the last time he was here. I think that was us rushing him back from rehab. Give him another start down there. And maybe if Buehler's still smelling the place up, we have a guy ready to take his spot, thankfully. Abreu, meanwhile, should be back on Friday. From what I heard, he was down in AAA today. But we need reinforcements right now because we just need to be playing complete baseball. Versus the Yankees and the Rays, I would say we played really complete baseball from an offensive side, From a pitching side and defensive side, we were great the next 6 games. But, this Mariners series hopefully won't expose us too bad. Hopefully we can go back and get back to winning a game tomorrow.
But Munch Cookie in the chat asks if there's any truth to the Duran for sale rumor. And I would say no. And Craig Breslau did an interview this morning with WEI. I think it was his weekly interview. And he's at the very tail end of it. He spoke very highly about Jarren Duran. And I don't think he's viewed as at least in June, as a movable guy. On July 31st, perhaps anything's possible, but I don't foresee anything there. You're really waving the white flag if that happens. So
yeah, I agree completely, especially with the fact that you trade a guy away so he can win a Cy Young for someone else. You get a guy back that you stuff down in AAA. He's still there. And the worst part of the sale trade, the worst, most egregious part, and I'm sure John Henry would be the first one to agree with me, was that we retained part of his contract. What are we doing? That was embarrassing. If you trade a guy like Duran, who I think is on the, maybe not on the block in the sense that he's being shopped, but on the block in the sense that he's expendable technically to the Red Sox. Either him or Willier could go, and the other one would step in nicely. But the thing with Duran for a guy like Sale is like, Duran's still got, 3 or 4 years left of team control?
3 after this one. Yeah.
So, I mean, that would just be such a white flag. It would be embarrassing. You can't take backsies, unfortunately, when it comes to stuff like that. If we're getting Sale back, it better be for a kid in AA or something.
Yeah, if you really want Chris Sale back, then I mean, not that you're going to give him Von Grissom back, but yeah, you trade someone like, I don't know, Blaze Jordan, or
right.
Just someone that you don't think is going to get to the major league level and really contribute. You're not trading Jarren Duran for that. If you're trading Jarren Duran, you better get the next Mackenzie Gore, or the next best pitching prospect, not Kyle Harrison, Craig Breslau, someone better than that. Because at this point, I'm not saying Jarren Duran's the face of your team, but he's your leadoff guy. He's probably your best player overall at this point, in terms of offense. So, yeah, like, if they're trading Duran, it's got to be for a king's ransom.
For
Um,
me, a guy I would eye and sort of put on the other side of that scale is maybe like Duran and a couple guys in the minors for a guy like Mitch Keller. He's still got, I think, 4 years of team control, 29 years old, pitching very well this year. It would have to be for something like that. A guy like Sale, that would be too steep. Although, at this point, who even knows? Anything can happen these days. Anything we want to add, or should we just get to the probable matchup?
Yeah. Crochet versus Castillo.
Nice 4 p.m. game tomorrow. Garrett Crochet, I mean, we've all seen him. He's been lights out. I have the utmost faith in this guy. The thing with Luis Castillo, he is pitching well again on the surface. You sort of look underneath, his metrics look bad. I mean, the K rate's unimpressive, only 67 Ks in 79.1 innings. His control's only about average, and he's getting hit really hard. Maybe Seattle will help to mitigate that, but I think this is an extremely winnable game so long as the bats actually show up.
I don't know that they will, though. I mean, who's crushing it right now?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, Trevor Story's got to go deep for us. It's going to be something silly like that, I could see. Well, it's a righty, so again, we don't really have a DH for that, unfortunately.
Well, at the very least, you won't get a goofy Cora lefty specialty lineup. So, you have a better chance of scoring runs there. I will say, Luis Castillo, take a good look at him because he's a guy that a lot of Red Sox fans wanted in the offseason. And I'll admit, I'll put my hand up. When the rumors came out that the Mariners were only willing to offer Brian Wu for Tristan Casas, I said, oh, that's not enough. You got to go for Kirby or Gilbert. I wish I had said no, and I wish the Red Sox had been like, yep, do it. Because Brian Wu looks nasty. Tristan Casas might be a bust. Luis Castillo might be kind of trending downwards. So this is one game where Crochet is trending upwards. Castillo might be showing his mileage a little bit. So maybe the Red Sox can get to him a little bit. And Crochet, we know what he can do. So it might be a 3-1 game, but hopefully the 3 is enough. At this point, that's what we have to hope for with the Red Sox.
Yeah, no one is hot right now. I'll say that much. It looks like Carlos Narvaez has pretty much been the only good hitter on the team, really, in the past 7 days. Tomorrow, I guess we will get Christian Campbell back. He was taking a day off today. I would imagine Ref Snyder probably gets out of the DH spot. Christian comes in. Unfortunately, that means, of course, David Hamilton is going to be starting again, which, well, get on board for that wild ride. We'll see what happens. I'll have some faith. I want us to win this series, especially with the Giants coming after. But there's only one way to know for sure, and that is to watch us play the game. Go Sox. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us, listening in. I really appreciate it. It means the world to us. Thank you so much for the comments and really the interaction. Even though we don't always respond, I'm always reading the chat for sure. Jason, by the way, what were you drinking tonight? Someone asked.
This was a Irish whiskey aged in tawny porter barrels. So,
ooh, nice, very fancy.
I got a half day and a day off on Thursday, so I'm kind of just rolling into it. Yeah, this combined with the Raphael Devers stuff, it's like, I deserve it.
Absolutely, yeah. Someone asked, they said it looked good. I thought so too.
Yeah.
So I've been Nick, joined by Jason and Terry, and we've been the Bastards of Boston.